new guidelines, it'll be a little easier to maybe deal with more than one person at a time.
They are racing to get ready at this store and others like it across the GTA as the province puts a date on when retail can reopen. Tuesday is the day many retail stores in Ontario will be allowed to open their doors again. It is the first step in the province's three-step economic recovery plan, and it's not just limited to retail. Lisa Shing is live tonight at Bathurst and Fort York. And Lisa, what else is on that list?
Well, Dwight, a lot of people online have been tweeting at me since the announcement came out saying they're excited for library pickups to start back up again. Now, the Fort York Library here has been closed since the middle of last month, in fact, and so have a lot of other businesses that can soon open next week.
Just a few days from now, this Toronto running store will be able to open up again.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm so excited to reopen. I think that it's going to help me with my own sort of nervousness and anxiety.
So far, Lynn Bork has been doing deliveries and curbside pickup. By Tuesday, the official start of phase 1 of 3, retail stores not in malls can open to the public, but under new rules like physical distancing.
Well, we'll definitely be limiting customers. Right now, I'm thinking that there can't be more than 2 customers in the store.
So far, it's just garden centers and hardware stores that have been allowed to open. But by next week, construction, pet services, household cleaning, and in-person counseling and scheduled surgeries can start up again. Seasonal businesses like golf courses, marinas, private campgrounds and parks, and animal boarding services can be open as early as Saturday.
We have the framework, we have the workplace safety guidelines, we have the capacity in our healthcare system.
And we've seen a drop in cases for about 3 weeks now. The province counted 258 new cases today, which is the lowest since late March. While it's good news, officials have this warning.
While there's things more available, it doesn't mean you have to go out. While there's more things allowed to be open, it doesn't mean they will open. It depends on the retailer, the group, and that, if they want to do it, if they feel it's worthwhile doing it.
And some experts are also saying if you don't need to take public transit, to avoid it for now, not to reduce your own risk of infection, but to protect other essential workers who may need to use transit more, Dwight.
Okay, so we know some of the services we can use now, but Lisa, what about social gatherings?
Well, the Premier did acknowledge this and says he understands people's frustrations with not being able to see their close family that's not in their household, for example. And he even acknowledged that he jumped the gun when he had 2 of his daughters over for Mother's Day who didn't live with him. But he says to stay the course for now because there's still a rule of limiting gatherings of more than 5 people. But I think we can expect an announcement on that soon, and we'll hear more also about the future of the school year next week, Dwight.
Lisa, thank you. So as businesses begin to reopen, they are going to have to adjust to the new realities of physical distancing while working. Greg Ross spoke with some people who work in the construction industry, where there have been some big changes to the way they operate.
Everybody's just trying to figure out how we're going to do things safely.
Mark Ashton owns a home renovation company. He says they're slowly starting to get back to work, but there have been some big changes.
We're speaking with new clients who want work done where everything's being done over Zoom.
There have also been big changes on the work site as well.
So if the trade goes in and they come out, we're disinfecting door handles, switches, anything that they're touching. There's no sharing of tools, if things like that.
And they're practicing safe physical distancing.
We can't have 4 or 5 trades in a room of 20 by 10. This social distancing just won't work.
But that's not as easy to do on a big construction site like this one for the new Woodbine Casino.
It will slow things down significantly.
Chris Campbell is a representative for the Carpenters Union. They had dozens of workers on this site before it closed down in March. He expects work to resume in the coming days, but he says it's imperative their members are protected.
On site for us, you need really proper cleaned washroom facility. You need to practice the social distancing. You need to make sure that the surfaces that members are going to be touching and sharing, you need to make sure that's sanitized daily, maybe several times a day.
He says workers should also be supplied with masks and gloves.
It's for the greater good. It's for not bringing home a virus to your loved one. It's about protecting your friends, your neighbors, right?
Campbell says the Carpenters Union is encouraging its members to speak up if they encounter any unsafe work conditions. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
We were first to tell you what Ontario's Stage 1 reopening plan would look like yesterday. You can find it all online. The details are there for you. Just head to cbc.ca/Toronto. It was the first long-term care home in Ontario to face a major COVID-19 outbreak. But today, good news is coming out of the Pinecrest Nursing Home in Bobcaygeon.
I'd like to let you all know that this morning, Public Health has announced that our outbreak is now over.
Staff today celebrating because, as you heard, the outbreak in the home is officially over. Earlier today, Pinecrest said their local public health unit confirmed that all residents have been free of symptoms for 14 days or more. That ends a nearly month-long nightmare for the home. 28 of the home's 65 residents have died due to the coronavirus, plus 32 staff members came down with COVID-19. Pinecrest says despite the end of the outbreak, all ongoing infection control measures will remain in place and all staff will continue to wear full personal protective equipment. Toronto Western Hospital is dealing with another COVID-19 outbreak tonight. This time in its emergency department. Crews are now cleaning the area and testing the staff who worked there from April 20th to May 13th. At least 5 ER workers have contracted the disease. A spokesperson for Toronto Western says there's a very low risk to patients because all healthcare workers wear personal protective equipment. The hospital adds ER staff who were working during the affected time frame will be tested for COVID-19 3 times over the next 2 weeks. The hospital has already made public several other outbreaks in recent weeks.
We're protesting lack of PPE for all of our workers and also for the pandemic pay that only some of our membership is getting.
Members of the Canadian Union of Public Employees protested outside St. Michael's Hospital today. They are upset about a lack of PPE for union members. They're also concerned that only some QP members are getting the pandemic pay increase announced recently by the provincial government. The union wants all members doing frontline work to receive the $4 an hour pay upgrade. As the province allows more people to venture out and more businesses to open, we are likely to see an increase in the amount of people getting sick. Public health officials will be closely tracking those numbers, relying on testing to spot any potential new outbreaks. Chris Glover is looking at whether our testing capacity is where it needs to be.
You ready? Okay. Even with COVID-19 symptoms, you still might not have gotten a test in Ontario.
It's really based on the judgment of the clinician that was in charge of the assessment center.
But the number of new cases continues to lower and stabilize. Spring will start to look more like years past as many people are unleashed back into the community. And now, if you have symptoms, the health minister says there'll be a test for you.
We need to do more public surveillance testing to understand what effect are these openings having on the public.
We have the testing and tracing systems in place, and we will be ready to respond to any flare-ups.
Ford and his government sound confident, but check this out.
We have to make sure that we continue testing the general population. If someone has symptoms and they come in, we need to test them.
That was Ford exactly 5 weeks ago, and despite his confidence, it obviously didn't happen. But daily test counts in Ontario have increased. Prioritizing at-risk people, especially in long-term care homes. But the health ministry says the system is on top of those tests and ready for the next challenge.
We aren't even remotely close to the kind of testing we would need to support this reopening.
This public health expert anticipates Ontario's testing regime will get a failing grade.
So thinking about all the retail workers, all the service workers, there's serious occupational risk. for all of these folks in this plan, and they should be tested at least weekly. But we would need hundreds of workers to do it. We would need tens of thousands of more tests per day. And that's the piece that is conspicuously missing here.
Ontario has become a leader in Canada in daily per capita testing.
The health minister also says alerting those in close contact with infected people is ramping up in tandem.
A growing number of public health units are contacting 90% of new cases within 24 hours as the province deploys more resources to accelerate these efforts.
Ready, she says, even as it's expected more of us will get sick. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
A hit and run near Eglinton and Kingston Road has sent a young boy to hospital with serious injuries. Police say 2 people were struck by a black 4-door car. The driver fled the scene and police believe the car has significant damage. One of the victims, a young boy, was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries to his head. The second victim was an adult who suffered non-life-threatening injuries. It was a shocking case that captured the city's attention earlier this year. Police raced against the clock to find a 14-year-old boy abducted while on his way to school, allegedly over his stepbrother's multi-million-dollar drug debt. Police have now made a number of arrests in the case. Philip Lishanuk has the details.
He went through a lot of terror.
Chief Mark Saunders says the boy had done nothing to deserve being grabbed off the street and subjected to 40 hours of threats.
An innocent young man who had no reason to be abducted, just trying to walk to school and be put in such danger over a period of time.
The 14-year-old was grabbed in the Jane Street and Driftwood Avenue area and thrown into a black Jeep, which was found burned in the Forks of the Credit area. It was 12 hours after his abduction before an Amber Alert was issued. Police say he was taken to an abandoned barn in the Caledon area and threatened. And late on March 5th, he was released and found by police in a remote area near Brampton. Those who know the boy feared the worst.
He is fine to a certain degree. When somebody goes through a trauma, it usually takes a long time for them to get past it. But I think he's well on his way with the support that he has around him. And of course, the news today would also revitalize whatever thoughts he had of things being so negative around him and stuff, to see that the police caught the people, which is that would be great for him.
Saunders says the whole ordeal is linked to the theft of a large amount of cocaine.
The brother who was allegedly involved in that drug rip, has caused the family to be in harm's way, which led to this abduction.
Police have arrested 4 men from Toronto, Mississauga, and Brampton. They face more than 30 charges, ranging from kidnapping for ransom, uttering threats, forcible confinement, and drug-related charges.
People are really excited. People are very relieved, which works a lot for the students as well as the community to see that justice still prevails.
But police are still looking for at least one more, 29-year-old Soleiman Nassimi of no fixed address. He's wanted for kidnapping, uttering threats, and arson.
I hope again that we ruin this guy's summer.
People in the community hope an arrest comes much sooner than that. Philip Lishanuk, CBC News, Toronto.
What started out as a fire call to a Midtown Toronto high-rise has now turned into a murder investigation for Toronto police.
Well, it's very shocking because this is such a very peaceful neighborhood.
We had no idea what was going on. And like half an hour later, we all went back to our apartment. And I woke up this morning and I saw the news.
Detectives are trying to identify this man tonight. He was captured on surveillance cameras in the building in the Yonge and Beloyal area. Around 2 this morning, emergency crews responded to reports of a fire in the building's laundry area. After putting out the flames, a man's body was discovered. Investigators say he was murdered. They've now identified the victim as 52-year-old Peter Ellie of Toronto. The man police are looking for was dressed in a dark jacket and red and black pajamas. Police say if you see him, call 911. The City of Toronto has launched the first phase of its Active TO plan. It aims to provide more space for people to be physically active while having room to adhere to physical distancing. Kelda Ewan is live in Kensington Market for us with more on this tonight. So, Kelda, a list of locations has now been released.
That's right, Dwight. The city has confirmed 57 kilometers of quiet streets, which it will begin rolling out over the next couple of weeks. In fact, the first 3 spots were launched today, including right here in Kensington Market between Nassau, Spadina, Augusta, and Dundas. Now, as you can see behind me, there are signs as well as barricades. They were put in place earlier today. Now, only local traffic will be allowed through the stretch of road so that pedestrians as well as cyclists, they have more space to physically distance. Now, other spots that were launched today include a stretch of Shaughnessy Boulevard as well as Havenbrook Boulevard, both in North York. The city says the barriers and signs will be modified and improved as they go along. Now, sections of major roads next to busy multi-use trails will also be closed to car traffic starting this Victoria Day long weekend. And Mayor John Tory says the city staff has recommended closing around 10 kilometers of major roads. This includes a 6-kilometer stretch of Lakeshore Boulevard West between Windermere Avenue and Stadium Road. Now, this area lies next to the Martin Goodman Trail, which has seen crowding on recent weekends. Bayview Avenue between Mill Street to Rosedale Valley Road will also be closed, as well as River Street from Gerrard Street East to Bayview. These closures will last from 6 a.m. on Saturday to 11 p.m. on Monday. And staff will be monitoring all these areas to see what improvements can be made in the coming weeks.
I expect these changes will be popular, and city staff are already looking at other sites for more additional quiet streets, and we invite the public and our members of council, of course, to participate in making suggestions in this regard. Oakland, Portland, and San Francisco have adopted similar plans for many of their streets.
Now, the complete list of all the quiet streets that have been identified in the city can be found on the City of Toronto website. Mayor Tory says more will be added in the future. Of course, another major part of this active TO plan is cycling, expanding the cycling network. And Mayor Tory said that more details on that will be revealed next week. Dwight?
Thank you, Kelda. Colette actually wrote in the script to throw to you, rain on the way, but as we could tell from Kelda and Lisa's live hit into the show, it's already here.
Yeah, not on the way, it is definitely here. But keeping with the theme, not only the rain, we're going to talk about that, but being active, of course, with golf courses reopening into Saturday, I thought we'd take a look at what, if you're lucky enough to be able to get a tee time, morning tee times, early morning, there'll be some cloud cover. That will peel away pretty quickly. But just so you know, around 12 degrees there into the afternoon, much more sunshine. 17 degrees, and by later afternoon we may approach about 19 for the daytime high, in fact. So Saturday, the best day it's looking like of the long weekend. Now, here are the current temperatures. As that rain has been making its way in, it's been pulling the temperatures down, and of course that makes sense. 8 degrees now in Toronto. We've been seeing less of it over towards the east. 12 degrees for Oshawa, 17 though for you in Hamilton. And the situation with this rain coming through with some embedded thunderstorms possible, especially through areas from Hamilton, around Burlington, over towards St. Catharines and Niagara. You could see with what's coming now, but then what comes in for Friday, total amounts of the 30 to 50 millimeters. It looks like that's going to stay more to the south, but just so you know, locally, especially if you get some thunderstorms rolling through, those could be a few areas that get some heavier amounts. So this is kind of this first batch going through. Then we actually will get into some breaks in the precipitation for much of the overnight hours, so it'll be quite spotty in nature. But then the next wave will be coming in for Friday. So it will be milder, that's still there, but it's going to be a wet day as well. Temperature rising from 8 to 12 degrees overnight, 19 tomorrow afternoon with late day clearing. Dwight?
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. Take advantage of special offers now. It's hard to stop a train.
A critical service in our city is on the financial ropes. The TTC is facing a $92 million loss in monthly revenues due to the pandemic. But despite all of the cost-saving measures the company has already taken.
We had to make the hard decision to lay off 1,200 staff, 1,000 operators, and 200 non-unionized staff as well. That's part of our cost containment, and you know, finding savings wherever we can. We've frozen non-union salaries this year. We reduced travel. We've frozen hiring. So these are all some of the things that we've done to really contain our costs.
Total ridership has plummeted more than 80% over pre-coronavirus levels, and there's an 86% decline in Presto Card taps during the crisis. Now, the figures were revealed through a report at the transit agency's virtual board meeting today. It says the loss is forecast to reach $300 million by Labor Day if current ridership levels continue. TTC is asking for emergency funding from both the federal and provincial governments. Although both levels have said they are open to a conversation, there is no financial commitment as of yet. Less passengers on the TTC is one side effect of the shift to working from home. For some Canadians, it's been a challenge. For others, a welcome change. But as Thomas Daigle tells us, for better or worse, the pandemic may be leading to permanent changes to some workplaces.
Downtowns surely won't remain ghost towns forever, but as companies consider their post-pandemic plans, employees like Tanya Zwicker are learning stay-at-home strategies for the long run.
Having the children home from school and working from my living room couch, I think that there could be complete chaos around me now and I could focus.
She's not alone. A new survey of Canadian office professionals suggests 60% now realize their job can be done from home.
I think what you'll see is that they now say, hey, I can do this. And now I'd like to be able to have more flexibility to do it when I want to.
The Bank of Montreal expects up to 80% of its staff will split working hours between the office and home. Now, Twitter has become the latest firm to tell employees telecommute indefinitely if you'd like, giving them $1,000 each to buy what they need.
When you maximize the happiness, you also maximize the productivity of your people.
It could signal a massive shift in the way people work forever, with less office space needed in those massive towers, cutting the municipal tax base in the long run, and reducing revenue for services like the Toronto Transit Commission even sooner.
The cost to the TTC just up to Labor Day as a result of the pandemic is $500 million.
Then there are those in many frontline sectors for whom working from home will never be an option, a constant reminder of a class divide. Plus, if higher earners desert the downtown, then what?
They're not spending money at the restaurants and the bars. What are the knock-on effects for some of those sectors where people have to be in the workplace?
In other words, working from home will make life easier for some and harder for others. The kind of shift in society that won't be fully measured till years from now. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
After the break, how the Toronto Zoo is about to become more like African Lion Safari. Plus, some Toronto rockers drum up an idea.
When you find your keys, I stole your eyes.
Oh my God, we can create this whole experience out of it and have the camera feed of the live show onto the screens and the audio being broadcast into everyone's vehicles.
We talk with July Talk about their drive-through concert plans next. The Toronto Zoo is hoping to help people connect with nature, practice physical distancing, while still getting up and close with the animals.
This experience would have people driving in the front gate, actually navigating the existing walking paths, service roads, and Zoomobile route, and provide a unique behind-the-scenes look at your 500-acre zoo. And it takes you through several different of the geographic regions and gives you the opportunity to see a lot of the big animals, the rhinos, the zebras, the flamingos, and really provide a unique opportunity when folks have been really looking to get outside.
The zoo is waiting for approval from the city and the province in order to bring the safari experience to us. The experience would also come with a digital audio guide so you can learn about the different animals and the conservation work that happens at the zoo. The zoo is also offering daily Facebook Lives at 1 p.m., bringing animals right into our homes. If you had summer concert plans, they have probably been postponed or canceled already. COVID-19 has impacted the way we have fun in a big way. Well, one popular band has adapted and innovated with the times. July Talk will take the stage in August at a drive-in movie theater. Alicia San spoke to the band about this totally unique experience.
July Talk is back with a new album and a new show.
And now we're home.
Like a whole new way of doing a show at a drive-in movie theater. The band's manager came up with the idea after having to cancel a whole summer of shows.
Oh my God, we can create this whole experience out of it and have the camera feed of the live show onto the screens and the audio being broadcast into everyone's vehicles, and it just kind of went from there. And it's been a really creative couple months kind of planning the logistics of it.
The shows are booked for August 12th and 13th. They haven't released the exact location yet, but it will be near Toronto at a drive-in movie lot. Remember those?
I remember seeing a double bill of Twister and Jurassic Park. I'm not even sure if they came out in the same year, but somehow this drive-in pulled off having a dinosaur movie and a Twister movie. And I just remember hiding under the blankets in the back seat and just being so scared.
Added playing might please you too. Drive-in movies were especially big in the 1950s and 60s, but this time, sub the 1950s era teenage lovers for music fans jamming out socially and physically distanced in their cars. It can be done.
Guys, in Germany, car rave. If anything, it's a new dance move.
Yeah, totally. I think that'll be a blast, especially if kids come, being able to, you'll always remember like honking at a band.
When you find your keys, I stole.
July Talk fans are excited.
Thank you for putting something positive out there for music fans right now. It's been kind of gloomy, and we'll be there to support you. Like the hardcore fans will be there to support you through it all.
But I'm definitely really excited to see what they have in store.
You can dance in your car.
Oh, I will be for sure.
Both Leah and Peter say, right back at ya.
People have tried to replace certain experiences with online experiences, but being able to provide an actual first-person feeling of that kind of urgency and butterflies and experiment together, I think it's gonna be pretty special.
Alicia San, CBC News, Toronto.
Looks like it might be fun. After the break, still waiting for that package in the mail.
It's like trying to push back a wave with just your one hand.
As boxes pile up, a Canada Post employee speaks out about the struggles of increased demand with less staff. Plus,
amid the COVID-19 pandemic, families across the city are struggling to get healthy food. I'm Lauren Pelly, and I'll show you how one pop-up food bank in Thorncliffe Park is helping bringing that food right to their doorsteps.
If you've ordered something online recently, you may still be waiting for the package to arrive. Canada Post is experiencing holiday season level of demand, but as one employee tells Nali Kalada, a staffing shortage may also be to blame.
It's definitely different.
Jaden Bruzizi isn't usually this busy in May.
The level of parcels is way, way up.
With millions staying home across the country, employees have more to sort, carry, and deliver.
There's a lot of household items, cooking items, a lot of crafts for the kids.
It's been a struggle to keep up with demand.
It's like trying to push back a wave with just your one hand.
We've agreed to protect this sorting facility worker's identity because he's afraid of being disciplined for speaking out.
The head office has told the public, we have Christmas volumes, we're doing the best we can, but what they haven't said was we've lost almost half of our staff.
His pictures from inside the facility show mountains of packages waiting to be sorted and sent, some to remote communities, some containing necessities.
I'll dig out what I know is like disinfectants. I'll see medical supplies. It actually says on the side, dust masks.
The union representing postal workers confirms the staff shortage at the facility, but says safety trumps productivity.
The highest number of our members are off on high-risk leave, conditions that compromise your immune system. Those members are being asked not to come in.
Nearly 50 of its members have contracted coronavirus across Canada. In a statement to CBC News, Canada Post asked Canadians to be patient, that customers should expect delays because our plants were never designed to keep people 2 meters apart, meaning it's taking longer to process items. And it's a situation that's not likely to lighten anytime soon. Natalie Kalada, CBC News, Toronto.
Quebec is delaying the reopening of schools in the Greater Montreal area until September. Premier François Legault says the city is still too vulnerable to the pandemic. Montreal's Mayor Valérie Plante says it's the right thing to do.
We know that the situation is still fragile in Montreal. We also know that the risk of contamination can be more important through students and through the school systems.
Elementary schools were due to open May 25th. Daycares as well. They will still stay closed now until June 1st. Quebec has already begun to gradually open schools outside of the Montreal area. 2 people in Toronto's shelter system have now died from the coronavirus, while in Peel Region there are 6 known COVID-19 cases within the homeless population. But they've all since recovered. Talia Ricci went to find out why officials there are encouraged their protocols are working.
It was horrifying in a way.
The first time Christopher Orticello ever found himself without a home was right when the pandemic started. Shortly after accessing a shelter, he was moved to a hotel.
There's internet, there's TV, so there's all the amenities that one can ask for, and it really is a blessing.
He's one of 370 people experiencing homelessness in Peel, now in a hotel. That's about half of the region's shelter system. By early April, they were relocated to ensure physical distancing within the shelters. But the region says their plan started a month earlier, screening and isolating people at risk.
I honestly think that our concentration on preventative measures and really jumping out quickly to get in front of that, the social distancing, the emptying out the shelters, the changes to meals, has really helped to get us where we are today.
Peel Housing says there are also facilities for the few who have needed to isolate and recover.
And we've only served a total of 6 and they've all recovered.
But this response hasn't created additional spaces within the shelter system, and there are still hundreds of people living on the street in Peel Region. We spoke with one community drop-in center in Brampton. They've extended their services at this time, and they say it's still a very challenging time to be experiencing homelessness with so many programs and community services shut down.
We're seeing a lot of new people, a lot of people who are laid off, and a lot of people who are living in their cars and are used to going to like rec centers and gyms to shower.
Regeneration Brampton has been delivering meals to encampments and providing things like internet and washroom facilities.
Even allowing encampments to stay up right now. I think it's definitely made the problem a lot more visible to our community. And I think that they've kind of realized the importance of taking care of the most vulnerable people.
Orticello says he's also been able to use supports to start looking for permanent housing once the pandemic is over.
It was frightening, but now I feel I'm very grateful, but also I feel safe.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Brampton.
People across the city are struggling to make ends meet during the pandemic, and with thousands losing their jobs, it's now hard for many families to put food on the table. As Lauren Pelly shows us, some organizations have banded together to launch a food bank that keeps people safe from COVID-19.
Here at this East York Food Bank, it's all hands on deck, with thousands of people in the surrounding neighborhoods to feed.
The main thing is a lot of people lost their jobs, so and there's no employment available to them. So there's that challenge of getting food, groceries.
Organizer Amir Zucchera grew up here in Thorncliffe Park. He says even before the pandemic, people lived paycheck to paycheck.
Some of the volunteers, I asked them, why are you here? Why are you helping out? And they're like, well, next month we might need food.
The Islamic Society of Toronto provided this warehouse space, and other community groups started chipping in donations.
So when we got the call, we jumped in action with our committee, and we basically put together a GoFundMe campaign. We're already at $10,000, which is fantastic.
This food bank didn't even exist a month ago, and it's running a little bit differently than a typical operation.
These boxes are going to be picked up later on this afternoon and tomorrow by volunteers and taken to the families in need. And this is an entire high-rise community.
The hope is avoiding large gatherings and reducing the spread of COVID-19.
The point is that these guys are delivering to make sure the families don't have to come down.
The team behind the food bank says it's a struggle helping everyone who needs it, but it's also bringing people together.
We have to do our best to stay a community and help each other.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
The federal government plans to reopen some national parks on June 1st. Camping won't be allowed for at least an additional 3 weeks, though, but trails and areas that allow for physical distancing will be free to roam.
I want to end today by recognizing that the May long weekend is coming up. It'll be different than normal because lots of places, including our national parks, are still closed. But this isn't forever. Canadians have been doing the right things these past many weeks, and that's why we can announce today some good news for the weeks ahead. As of the beginning of June, some national parks will be partially reopening so that people in the area can use trails and green spaces where physical distancing is possible. Getting fresh air is important, but we all have to be responsible about it.
We will be responsible, Colette, but will we have roaming weather?
We'll have some roaming weather, at least this weekend, but only some. And I'll just explain what's happening here in terms of we are still seeing temperatures getting milder, at least for a couple of days for this holiday weekend. And Saturday is looking quite tremendous, but we do have obviously tonight some of this rain and some thunderstorm activity, or at least that risk in there, then some kind of breaks in the precipitation overnight, but it comes back tomorrow. So Friday, if you're considering that part of the long weekend, it is going to be a wet day most of the day. Saturday dries out, and then Sunday we are going to have to welcome another system coming back in again. Our current temperatures, they've come down a little bit. We had a high just over 13 degrees, and now we're down at 8 because of some of the rain that's moving through. It's been a little heavier around the Niagara region, and you can see that here on our radar, but even that's beginning to move away. So as it exits, we'll see only some spotty showers, but there is the risk for some heavier amounts in certain areas between this evening and then tomorrow. If you add that together, 30 to 50 millimeters, so a special weather statement in play from the Niagara region back towards Windsor. However, it seems as though maybe most of that will stay just a little bit further south of Lake Erie. However, locally, if you get a thunderstorm coming through, then you can get some heavier downpours in a short amount of time. So we put that batch, we let it go through. We have a few showers overnight, certainly quite a bit of cloud cover. And then the next round comes through into Friday, kind of coming in at waves, at times a little heavier. This is so important. 5 o'clock, see how it's sort of looking like it's moving out. So maybe the last couple of hours of daylight tomorrow, along with the mild temperatures, you could do something with that. And then into Saturday, early some clouds, but then they peel away. And so Saturday, that is why I'm saying it looks like the best day. Next system comes in, though, into Sunday. And it looks like maybe the very beginning of Sunday might be okay, but that's about it in terms of that. And it lingers into Monday as well. Rainfall amounts, again, these models not going quite as heavy as getting to that 30 to 50, but the risk is there. Tonight, our lows are above seasonal for a change. Tomorrow, our temperatures are near seasonal for a change, and we just cool off quite a little bit as we get towards Sunday, Monday, and then the temps are going to come back up, especially to the end of next week.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Health Canada has approved a new test to learn more about how COVID-19 spreads. It can't detect if you have the virus, but it can tell you if you've ever had it. 1 million Canadians are going to be tested. Christine Birak explains.
It's great that we now have the first test.
It's called Liaison, and it's made in Italy.
In some ways, I would call it a game changer.
Enthusiasm from doctors is rare, but this test can do what others haven't done very well. It can detect specific antibodies for the virus that causes COVID-19.
We'll get a sense of what proportion of our population has actually had it, and that'll be very useful from a planning point of view.
Researchers estimate about half of those infected with this coronavirus aren't showing symptoms of COVID-19. Knowing someone was infected can reveal patterns of how this virus is being spread. But scientists say there's a lot that antibody tests can't show us.
So it really says that you've got antibodies against the virus, you've been exposed. It doesn't tell you whether you still have virus.
When a virus enters the body, it takes time for our immune system to produce the right antibodies to go out and destroy it. If an antibody test is done too early, they might not have shown up yet. We also don't know how many antibodies are needed to offer us immunity. And these types of tests don't detect the virus itself.
So you could have antibodies and still be infectious. So you still have to protect others, you still have to protect yourself, but it's kind of nice to know how many people have antibodies.
And that's what the government's immunity task force plans to find out. It will be testing at least 1 million Canadians over the next 2 years. Not quite the quick test Canadians are waiting for, but Canada's top doctor says it will produce valuable data.
Right now, the foundations are being built now that you have the first test.
Hopefully, with many more to follow. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
After the break, Vancouver is dealing with a rash of racist and xenophobic attacks against Asian Canadians.
The victim was just someone who was on the bus trying to stand up, be a good Samaritan for two women who were being berated with racist comments.
We'll have more on how the Asian community out west is dealing with this next. The COVID-19 pandemic is taking a toll on everyone, especially Asian Canadians who may have more to fear than the virus itself. There have been many reports of racist and xenophobic attacks against that community. Laura Lynch has the details of several recent incidents in Vancouver.
The audio on these images has been muted by police, but what this man said on a Vancouver bus was allegedly filled with hate.
The victim was just someone who was on the bus trying to stand up, be a good Samaritan for two women who were being berated with racist comments.
Police say the man attacked her when she spoke up, punching her and ripping a clump of hair from her scalp. Add it to the other violent attacks on Asian Canadians. Here, a man in his 90s shoved to the ground. Or here, a woman punched in the face at a bus stop.
So here in Vancouver, we have noticed a trend in an increase in hate crimes.
20 hate-related crimes against Asian Canadians reported in Vancouver this year. There were 12 in all of last year. A few days ago, dance artist Ziyang Quan was getting on her bicycle outside the Chinese Cultural Center when a man shouted at her.
It was, take your bike back to where you came from. You people made this shit up in Wuhan City, and now you've brought it here to Canada.
The center itself was vandalized last week, windows spray painted with anti-Asian slurs. Quan went ahead with a performance at the center intended to provide healing and solidarity for the Asian Canadian community. But she's shaken by what's happened.
I feel very vulnerable. So the day after the incident in Chinatown, I got home and I was going to take out the garbage. I saw two people there. They're probably just some nice guys. But I decided to walk around the block and wait till they had gone.
In light of all this, there is the question of what bystanders should do if they see someone being attacked. Police don't want to discourage people from helping, but they suggest calling 911.
Offenders could be unpredictable. We don't know if they have a weapon. We don't know if they're mentally unstable and what the suspect is thinking. And we just want people to stay safe.
Ziyang Quan doesn't want to live in fear in her own country, but she worries the pandemic is spreading hate along with the virus. Laura Lynch, CBC News, Vancouver.
After the break, today's frontline hero. Stick around for that. We'll be right back. When the University Health Network asked for volunteers to be redeployed to the city's long-term care homes, these three healthcare heroes stepped up. On the left is Dr. Julie Nguyen, a gynecological oncology fellow at the UHN. In the center, Jubin Alex, a registered nurse with the UHN resource team, and Boyan Stojkovic, a registered nurse in the UHN's transplant unit. They were all sent to help manage an outbreak, working to feed, change, and socialize with residents. Nguyen wanted to recognize her two colleagues. She sent us an email saying this: "I really admire them for volunteering to be redeployed with such great energy and attitude in such a high-risk environment. I'm so glad I got to work with them. They are truly admirable nurses and colleagues. Initiatives like these make me proud to be Canadian." Now, Nguyen herself is at home isolating after contracting COVID-19, likely at work. She adds, "Thank you to her as well, and we hope you are well on the road to recovery, Julie." So thank you for that. And thank you to your partners for everything you're doing. If you'd like to share a story about your frontline hero, tag us on Twitter or Instagram at CBC Toronto. Send us a message on Facebook or email us at torontotips@cbc.ca. Round of applause for all our frontline heroes.
I need a cowbell still.
You're gonna bang it for them too, right? You've been doing that on your balcony, haven't you?
Yes, anytime, just for the fun of it. Yeah, we absolutely appreciate our frontline heroes. Now, I want to talk to you about what's going on. We're almost there to a holiday weekend, a little different than most, but we've got one coming. I know we have the wet conditions now, and we're going to be seeing kind of some breaks in this, and then more wet weather for Friday, but we also have a warm up. We are going to see those temperatures coming up for Friday and for Saturday as well. Now let's just walk you through this evening. We are looking at 8 degrees. The temperatures are actually going to be rising towards the morning hours as those winds turn towards the southwest. There is the risk of an embedded thunderstorm. And as I was mentioning earlier, we do also have that special weather statement around Hamilton and through the Niagara region because there could be some enhanced amounts of rainfall between this evening and what falls tomorrow. Overnight, with that temperature coming up, by tomorrow morning, we'll be at 12 degrees with the southwesterly breeze. Some breaks, though, in the showers overnight. In fact, we may get one long break with just a few isolated spots where you get a bit of a wet weather, but mostly it'll be some fog. And we have some drier conditions before it fills back into the morning hours. 19 degrees tomorrow afternoon. It looks like late afternoon, like past 4 o'clock, we could get some clearing that you'll get a little bit of sunshine to enjoy peeking through the clouds at the end of the afternoon hours. Lots of sunshine, though, Dwight, for Saturday.
We like sunshine. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Chris Glover has your next local news tonight at 11, right after the National. We will see you back here tomorrow at 6. Stay safe and have a great night, everybody.